300 Spartan. Battle of Thermopylae. The year was 480 before century, and the Persian king Xerxes had invaded Greece with a massive army of over 1 million soldiers. He wanted to conquer all of Greece and to avenge his father Darius, who had been defeated by the Greeks at the Battle of Marathon 10 years earlier. Xerxes had crossed the Hellespont, a narrow strait that separated Asia and Europe, by building 2 bridges of boats. He had marched through Thrace and Macedonia, and had reached the northern border of Greece, where he faced the first resistance. The Greeks had formed an alliance of city-states, called the Hellenic League, to oppose the Persian invasion. They had sent a small force of about 7,000 soldiers, led by the Spartan King Leonidas, to defend the pass of Thermopylae, a narrow mountain gap that was the only way to enter central Greece from the north. The Greeks hoped to delay the Persians at Thermopylae, while the rest of their army gathered at the Isthmus of Corinth, a narrow land bridge that connected the Peloponnese with the mainland. They also hoped that their navy, led by the Athenian admiral Themistocles, would stop the Persian fleet from sailing around the Peloponnese and attacking them from behind. The Battle of Thermopylae began on the second day of the Persian invasion. The Greeks had fortified the pass with a wall of stones and had positioned themselves behind it. The Persians attacked in waves, sending their infantry, cavalry, and archers against the Greek wall. However, the pass was so narrow that only a few hundred soldiers could fight at a time, and the Persians could not use their superior numbers or their chariots. The Greeks fought with courage and skill, using their long spears and heavy shields to repel the Persian assaults. They killed thousands of Persians, while suffering few casualties themselves. Xerxes watched the battle from his throne on a nearby hill, and he was astonished and enraged by the Greek resistance. He sent his best troops, the Immortals, an elite force of 10,000 warriors, to break through the Greek line. But they too failed and were slaughtered by the Greeks. The battle lasted for 2 days, and the Persians could not advance. Xerxes was desperate, and he offered a reward to anyone who could find a way to outflank the Greeks. A Greek trader named Ephialtes came to him and told him of a secret path that led over the mountains to the rear of the Greek position. Xerxes sent a detachment of his army, led by his general Hydarnes, to follow Ephialtes and surprise the Greeks from behind. The path was guarded by 1,000 Phocians, another Greek tribe, but they were not prepared for the Persian attack. They fled to the higher ground and let the Persians pass. On the 3rd day of the battle, Leonidas learned of the Persian maneuver from a scout. He realized that his position was doomed, and that he had to retreat or die. He decided to stay and fight, and to sacrifice himself and his men for the sake of Greece. He dismissed most of his army, and ordered them to join the main Greek force at the Isthmus of Corinth. He kept only his 300 Spartans, and a few hundred Thespians and Thebans who volunteered to stay with him. He knew that they had no chance of survival, but he hoped that their heroic stand would inspire the rest of the Greeks to resist the Persians. Leonidas and his men fought with incredible bravery and ferocity, knowing that they were facing their last battle. They abandoned their wall and charged into the Persian ranks, killing as many as they could. They fought until their spears broke, and then they used their swords and daggers. They fought until their weapons were lost, and then they used their teeth and nails. They fought until they were surrounded, and then they formed a circle and fought back to back. They fought until they were wounded, and then they fought on their knees. They fought until they were dead, and then they lay still. The Persians finally overcame the Greek resistance and killed Leonidas and his men. They cut off Leonidas' head and impaled it on a stake as a sign of their victory and their contempt. They also mutilated the bodies of the other Greeks and threw them into a pit. They had won the battle, but they had paid a heavy price. They had lost over 20,000 soldiers, while the Greeks had lost only about 2,000. They had also lost their morale and their respect for the Greeks. They had seen that the Greeks were not cowards, but warriors who would rather die than surrender. They had seen that the Greeks were not slaves, but free men who would fight for their land, their laws, and their gods. The Battle of Thermopylae was a defeat for the Greeks, but it was also a victory. It was a victory of courage over fear, of honor over dishonor, of freedom over tyranny. It was a victory that inspired the Greeks to continue their struggle against the Persians, and to eventually defeat them at the battles of Salamis, Plataea, and Mycale. It was a victory that immortalized the 300 Spartans and their King Leonidas as the heroes of Greece and of the world.